thing about this starting at 6:30? My wife and I get to go out for dinner a little bit earlier. Thank you.
Well, it'll be up to you guys to keep it short.
I'll go Mexican somewhere. You wanna go? Just go along, she won't. All ready? Everybody ready? Call the zoning board of appeals meeting to order. By way of introduction, I will briefly explain the purpose for the zoning board of appeals to the audience. The city has adopted a set of zoning ordinance if a property owner applicant wishes relief for a portion of the ordinance. State law provides for an avenue of appeals, hence named zoning board of appeals. The zoning board must find that four conditions exist in reviewing the application in order to grant the variance. If all four conditions are met, the board can grant approval for a variance from the ordinance.
Oh, okay, all right, those off. Push the button, right? The four conditions that must be met are extraordinary or exceptional circumstances which apply to this parcel alone. 2, preservation of rights that a similar zone parcel would have. No detriment to adjacent properties. Number 4, the request is not such a general nature that the ordinance should be changed. Unlike a decision by the planning commission that must be approved or can be overturned by the city commission, the decision by the zoning board of appeals is final. There is no review or opportunity for overturning by the city commission. The Zoning Enabling Act provides a section 606 Annex 3. An appeal from a decision of the zoning board of appeals shall be filed within 30 days after the zoning board of appeals issues its decision in writing, signed by the chairperson, if there is a chairperson, or signed by the members of the zoning board of appeals, if there is no chairperson, or within 21 days after the zoning board of appeals approves the minutes of its decision. The court may affirm, reverse, or modify the decision of the zoning board of appeals. The court may make other orders as justice requires. Okay, we need to approve some minutes from September 23rd.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay?
I'll
Motion
second.
by Brian. Motion and support. All in favor of approving the minutes as printed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. The minutes are approved. We'll go to the general comment from the public. This provision is made to encourage the expression or questions and concerns regarding non-public hearing items and issues not on the agenda. Speakers are asked to identify themselves by name and address. A maximum time of 6 minutes per person is required. First one on the docket is Sunset Hills, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Applicant for 238 Sunset Hills present. Okay. Applicant requests relief from section 94-188 for purposes of constructing an attached carport on the north side of the home in the SA Suburban Single Family Residential District at 3.2 foot and 4 foot from the northern side property line, where the ordinance requires 10 foot from the side property line. Per figure 2 below, figure 1 shows the location of the proposed carport drawn on a survey. The purpose of the proposed carport is to store a boat. I think we all have that on your drawing or whatever on your agenda there. Okay, like I said before, the ordinance section request relief from is 94-188. Address is 238 Sunset Hills Avenue Northwest. Property owner's name is Michael L. Haas. Is that, did I pronounce that right? Maz?
Moss.
Okay. Property owner's address is same as above. Applicant's name same as above, and address. Zoning district is SA. Use of existing premises home. Use of proposed usage is for carport. Previous appeals are none.
He's gonna go through a few more things, and then he'll ask you to come up,
Okay.
probably after my.
Yeah, you don't have to stand there for now.
Okay,
I'll
I do-
ask you.
I do
When
have
we
some,
turn it, when I turn it over to the board for questions, or ask you for any more, if you want to add anything more than what I read, okay? Then I'll ask you to come back up, okay?
okay, I do have some photos if that helps.
Okay, we'll probably ask you for those too. I'll go through this and then we'll get to those, okay?
All right.
Thank you much. Exceptional or extraordinary circumstance. This is the only area on the property to put that. This can be added. We have a manhole, catch basin, Kent County consumers easements. Yes, there are other properties that have attached buildings. That is under preservation rights. No detriment. No, there is a fence, and view will be blocked, and landscape will be furnished. Not a general problem. It has no, but I can't imagine that we have too many properties with that many easements and right-of-ways and drainage districts. So I don't think we'll have a general problem with that occurring too much. And cannot be used only for the use of the variance for carport, which makes sense. Okay. Now I'll turn it over to you if you want to add anything more to what I just read, or maybe we'll take those pictures now too. Thank you. Do you want to add anything more than what I just added when I read it off, or is there anything more you'd like to add to that, or?
No, I just would like to, add the carport to protect my investment there, to put a cover over top of that part of the
Okay.
driveway.
Okay, we will definitely have probably some questions for you here in a little while, so from the board, okay, thank you much. So this is the slab that we're gonna put it on, raise pictures?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted a quick question before you hand them around so they know what they're looking at, okay? Okay, I'll start you down this way and then you run them back this way. Okay, Roger. Give you a couple minutes with those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
over here.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to run through my staff report? while-
Yeah.
while
Okay, yeah, we can do that
everyone
while
is-
we're looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
That'd be fine, yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's
Okay.
do that. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have Michael and Donna Moss here from 238 Sunset Hills, which is located just south of Lake Michigan Drive. And in between, just south of where the Sunset Hills Drive ends up, right at the Lincoln Country Club on Lake Michigan Drive. And so they're on the east side of the road. The property is zoned SA, suburban, single-family residential. They currently have a house with a two-stall garage. So this is the site plan that was submitted. So they've got a home that was built in 1906, I'm sorry, when was it built? Yeah, 1961. So it has an attached garage, 432 square feet, or I'm sorry, 462 square feet. It's also connected to water and sewer over there. As Chairman Mars mentioned in the applicant's response, the property contains a lot of different easements on it. There's an old Sexton drain easement from the county that's present over most of the parcel. And then there's a catch basin, and then there's a consumer's easement back here. Or there's a manhole back here, I guess. So just a little bit about the property in general. What they want to do here is they want to build a carport for the purposes of storing a boat. Is that correct? You want to store your boat, right?
Yes.
So I looked at some aerial photos from the past few years, and it looks like they've had the boat parked in various places throughout the yard. So I think they're ready to store it in a nice aesthetically pleasing location where they would have it covered year-round, and will not have as many worries with it being exposed to the elements. So in running through the criteria for the dimensional variance, so with the exceptional or extraordinary circumstances, as the applicant noted, the lot is largely encumbered by easements. And we had them reach out to the Kent County Drain Commission's office to see if that easement was still active, the old Sexton drain. It actually used to be a channelized drain that obviously is not channelized anymore. When these houses were built in the early 60s, these were all meets and bounds lots along Sunset Hills Avenue. And the easement stayed there, but the drain actually became buried infrastructure. It's a pipe now in the road. And so they reached out to the Kent County Drain Commission's office, and they were willing to grant an easement for encroachment onto the easement for the purposes of building this carport if the variance is granted. So, you know, in terms of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances, this really is probably the only way to feasibly place a structure that would be the size big enough to cover a boat on the property. Remember, there's a distance of 10 feet from any building if they were to, you know, build a detached carport or other type of structure around the backyard. And so that wouldn't meet ordinance requirements either. So, I'm sorry, I'm like trying to get this thing back going. So, I feel this criterion has been met with the location. It's proposed at 4 feet from to the northern property line from the westernmost corner. The carport that they want to build is 14 feet in width, and then toward at the northeast corner, it would be 3.2 feet. This survey was, they were able to get a hold of this survey and they submitted it. And this is what it would end up looking like. So they're asking for 4 feet and 3.2 feet to the property line, where 10 feet is required in the SA district. The second one, preservation of property rights. So what I did was I kind of drove around a little bit and looked for properties that were similar in size and in the same zoning and in the same general vicinity. Just north of Lake Michigan Drive, you've got the Lincoln Lawns neighborhood. And I provided a list in my staff report of a lot of other properties that get to enjoy either a detached 3-stall garage or an attached 2-stall garage with an attached carport, which is what they're asking for, or a 3-stall garage. So essentially 3 stalls. There are other people in the neighborhood with similar sized properties that are able to enjoy their property with a 3-stall garage in the same manner that the applicant is asking for. Yes?
Those ones that you found, the comps, were those also that close to the property line, the 3 stalls?
No, not necessarily. So what I did was I just looked for, I mean, some of them may have been, but I didn't necessarily look at that. I just, because I didn't really have a good way of measuring. If you look at the aerial photo from that neighborhood, you'll find that a lot of them are quite close to the property line, mainly because the lots are older. Most of them are substandard. So I did not measure, but I would imagine that many of them were closer than 10 feet to the property line. So the next criteria, no substantial detriment. So the applicant notes that there is a fence that is on the neighboring property. There's a row of trees there that provide a little bit of buffering, and then the fence is actually on the other side of those trees. With the photo, I just kind of highlighted the fence so it looks like it's on their side of the trees, but it's actually not. I just wanted you to get a feel for where that fence was located. So while a variance stays with the property, it's the people that live next door may be perfectly okay with the carport being that close to the property line, and they may like their fence. But somebody else might move in and decide they don't want a fence. And so as far as detriment goes, while the fence is there and while the trees are there, there's a buffer that's provided between the two, between the house and the proposed carport. But when you also take a look at how this carport would actually remove some violations with the parking of a recreational vehicle, I would say that adding this to the side of the garage and having a nice aesthetically pleasing structure for the boat to be parked would be a better scenario than looking at a boat in someone's yard, in various places as it's been in the past. So, because of that, I feel that this criteria has been met. The next one, not a recurrent request that would warrant a change in the zoning ordinance. Variances for side yard setbacks have been requested year after year after year. But the thing that's not the same is the properties. And so the variables that apply to each property that is asking for a side yard setback less than 10 feet in the SA district are all going to be different. Because of that, I don't believe that this is something that would warrant a change in the zoning ordinance. Obviously, if they're able to meet all of the other criteria, then it's something that would warrant a variance, but not necessarily a change in the ordinance. Not all properties are encumbered with easements. Not all properties have substandard setbacks to begin with. And so because of that, I feel that this criterion has been met. And so if the applicant, or if the ZBA is inclined to grant the variance, I just have two conditions that I would recommend adding to the approval. And those are that the applicant shall construct the fence in accordance with, not the fence, the carport, in accordance with the site plan submitted and dated 9/9/2020. And the applicant shall obtain an encroachment easement from the Office of the Kent County Drain Commissioner to construct the carport within a portion of the Sexton Drain easement. And that should be done before applying for a building permit. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Need a motion to open the hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay. Motion by Rogers, supported by Pat, to open the hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, hearing is open. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to the board with all the information we have here. Any questions or comments from the applicant? And I'll have to ask the applicant now to step up to the podium there, the microphone, please.
As far as the encroachment from Kent County, we did already get that, which I thought that was part of the packet that I turned in, but
It looks familiar, yeah.
So they in that email that they sent, they said that they will grant an easement, an encroachment easement. And so I think that that is something that's a little bit more formal than like a verbal permission. So it'll be something that has to be recorded.
okay,
And we can work on that. I'll help you with that.
okay.
Board have any questions from the applicant? The thing I have, is the fence that's there now, the neighbor's fence, is
There's
that
a-
right on the property line?
No, sir. If you go on the very east part of our lot, there is a chain link fence that is very close to the property line. And then when it comes up by the houses, the privacy fence is actually, as you can see from that picture, probably 5 feet into their lot line.
Okay.
So that picture there is a little bit deceiving.
It is.
Yeah, from the actual property line, yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering, it looked like a lot more distance there, that's why. I
Yeah,
asked
the
you.
photos that I gave you, yes.
Yeah,
So from where that cement wall is, the red cement wall is where the edge of the carport would be, and from that cement wall to their fence is about 9 feet.
okay. Okay. Any other questions from the applicant?
I have none. I have a question for the applicant. Are you intending to match materials that are on the existing house for the carport?
Yes.
And are you just using exposed 6x6 posts? Or are they gonna be wrapped or something, or?
I would think that they would be exposed. If you would prefer that they
But the roofing and the siding on the gable end, they're gonna match the house.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we just continue the roof, the existing roof, all the way across. So when you look at it from the road, it would look like it's been there forever.
Your diagram shows a line from the back corner to the back corner of the house. Is there an intended wall on the back of the carport, or will that be open straight through?
That would be open, so if I would need myself to go into the backyard, it would be available for that.
Okay, you won't be,
So the three sides of the carport would remain open.
okay. And then the posts for that will be built right where the wall's at, or just inside that little wall?
Just inside of that small wall.
On the current pad then?
Correct.
Okay.
Any more questions?
All right.
Comments? You want to quick go through the reasons and grounds real quick a minute, see if they meet the criteria? Or are you satisfied with where we're at? Someone want to make a motion?
Well, I just
No matter
have,
what we
I
gotta do,
just,
we gotta close the hearing.
yeah, we can do that too,
Okay.
whatever you wanna do.
We'll close the hearing. By
Close
Randy,
the public hearing, yeah.
support.
Support.
By Brian, close the hearing. All in favor of closing the hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign, hearing is now closed.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have one quick question, I hope it's quick.
Okay.
So, we grant this variance, which I think should be granted. However, if the next guy that moves in wants to enclose those walls, what protection do we have then? Now we have a three-stall garage with different setbacks, I mean, is there anything we need to be concerned about with that?
It's supposed to be an open carport. It's not supposed to be a garage. I don't
So
think
if we prove it, do we have to put a condition that it can never be enclosed, or?
it's for a carport only. A carport means it's open.
Okay.
If I may, if you grant the variance, it's for the setback.
Yep.
So whether this carport is enclosed or not, it still is part of the home. And so the setback remains the same at 10 feet from the property line, whether it's enclosed or not enclosed.
Okay.
So, I don't think a limitation to never enclose it would be necessary, because it's the setback that we're looking at and, not the type of structure.
Okay.
Well, if they enclosed it, does that meet the square foot of garage or whatever they can have for the square foot of floor in the house? I mean, there's other things that they have to comply to, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so they're allowed to have, and I can look it up if we need to, but I want to say it's like 832 square feet for a private garage, and then you're allowed an additional 1 square feet for every 500 square feet that the home is over 1,300 square feet. It's really fun mathematical equation.
That's what I was wondering.
Mr. Chairman, could you please turn your microphone on?
There we go. There we
Thank
go.
you.
Now we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
So there's no fence, right? It's a carport on this application.
That's right.
Okay, so we just scratch off fence and put carport.
Yep, that was my typo.
Okay, all right. I was looking for a fence and I couldn't find it, so, okay. So are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
If you guys are, yes.
Anybody else want to do this? All right. I move to grant the request for the variance at 238 Sunset Hills. All the section numbers and the 10-foot requirement with two conditions. One, that the applicant shall construct a carport in accordance with the site plan submitted and dated 9/9/2020. Condition number two, the applicant shall obtain with our office and staff people from Kent County Drain Commission, all that sexted drain easement. Get it recorded and all that stuff, so.
Yeah.
That's my motion, with two conditions.
Okay, we have the mission, the support of those conditions, okay? Supported by Brian. Any other comments or conditions for the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It is granted with those conditions. And do we got the deal to sign here, Roger? Okay, okay.
I have the thing right here.
You always got it over there?
Wasn't gonna forget this time, Roger.
Okay. We gotta have a signature a minute, okay?
I made
Be
3
right with ya.
copies.
Huh?
Do you want,
You want to sign one and one copy?
yeah, we can do that. I thought we would be, I can
Normally
email.
we do two.
2,
I
okay.
keep one, he keeps one. So I usually just use carbon paper with them.
Carbon paper.
Yeah.
Old school.
We used to have
Come on.
papers that came together.
We're gonna send you a
And the city
PDF.
got cheap and took them away. So the last zoning administrator bought me a pack of carbon paper, so I didn't have to write them out twice.
Oh, well, I don't mind writing it out. I mean, all the information's there.
Well, there's not a lot on here, but
That's a hoot.
You wanna come up and sign? And we'll let the secretary sign and then, yep.
My neighbor just did.
Which one, where'd you go?
The comments behind me.
And then if you could just sign that
Yeah.
one too. Then he's gonna sign this and you just keep it.
He lives right across the street. Cummings Club, yeah. And,
Okay?
he listed it. He went out, listed it.
This is a long time holding. Building permit and the easement.
They got 3 offers. And the people there had a contingency thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can apply and do it concurrently. Okay. But I can call somebody in the drain commission's office and figure out what the process is. I don't know what that is. We can go through all this. You wanna give me a call, like, Friday morning? Okay. We can go over that. Okay. Okay. All right. We're all set? Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Congratulations, good luck.
Here's your copy, Roger. Okay.
Applicant for property transfer, 2091 Alpine Avenue. Property's on Rogers. Present? Okay. Says here, Mr. Robert Goodhart, on behalf of owners Alpine Partners, is requesting they approve the finance lots along Rogers Street to exceed the 4-to-1 depth to width ratio as prescribed by the Land Division Act 1967 PA 288 and Section 75-23 of the Walker Zoning Code of Ordinance as it applies to parcels less than 10 acres in size. The owner of the parcel located at 2091 Alpine Avenue, commonly known as Weller Auto Parts, Baker Auto Parts, and Lucky Auto Parts properties, desires to deed a strip along the northern property line of the 2091 Alpine to the above referenced lots along Rogers Street. Mr. Goodhart has provided the following findings of fact for his request: exceptional or extraordinary topographic, response. The deeding of the properties was promised to some during the approval process of the Walker Auto DBA Lucky's on Alpine Avenue at this time, but one property owner has decided that they desire the additional property. The developer has previously worked with the city staff to review the likelihood of these properties transfers being able to occur. Land is to be deeded in generally naturally plat and wooded and is compatible with the single-family parcels by adding a little more space to the back of the properties for a buffer to the Weller Auto Parts site. Greater depth ratio with compatible with not adversely affecting the surrounding lands. Applicant response: the intent is for the city to combine the deeded properties with the parent parcels. It is to be deeded to create new parcels, including the deeded land. This is the case for properties not needing variances also, so this would not be considered splits. It would be considered property boundary. Adjustments: the city will then have one tax parcel for each new property, not two. In addition, after this is completed, Weller Auto Parts Incorporated must make multiple parcels on their site into one of Weller's Auto Incorp, one or two of the commercial corners of Rogers Street and Alpine Avenue. 3. The need for greater depth to width ratio is not self-created. Applicant's response: this issue was negotiated as part of the approval process with the city staff. Being aware of the circumstances and open to occurring boundary adjustments to be combined with the Rogers Street parcels with a submittal for variance were required. 4. Greater depth to width ratio for a particular parcel will not materially impair the intent and purpose of this article. Applicant's response: the property is on the other side of the new fence constructed as part of Weller Auto Parts Corp. development, and in the past, people other than the owners of the property use portions of this property for hiking, campfires, plantings, and leaf and tree disposal. 5. Proposed parcel otherwise complies with all applicable city ordinances and federal, state, county laws, rules, and regulations. Applicant's response: there are not any other ordinances or rules that we know of that these proposed boundaries adjustments are not in compliance. Anything that you'd like to add to this? Anything you'd like to add to it?
Yes. So, oops, let me go back to this. So I've been working with Robert Goodhart from Pathfinder Engineering. Hi, Robert. Nice to see you in person. And there's kind of a long history associated with this Weller property. I guess a long time ago, it was Baker Auto, and then the Wellers purchased the property. And just recently, the Lucky's Self-Serve Auto Parts has opened up. And so it's been a salvage yard for a lot of years, maybe over 20 years, 25 years, maybe 30, 40, 50. So
Forever.
the parcel, the Weller parcel is zoned heavy industrial, and I think it was zoned that way not horribly long ago. And then the lots along Roger are zoned single family, I'm sorry, they're zone A, single family residential. The Weller Auto parcel is actually dually zoned. And so the portion of the Weller property that they propose to deed over to the property owners along Roger is already zoned single family residential. And so it sounds like, from what I could dig up from the history of this whole situation, is that the Wellers have been making an attempt to be a better neighbor and providing a bit of a buffer to the property owners along Roger. So this request is a little bit different because this is not a variance request or an appeal from a section of our zoning ordinance. It's an appeal from a section from the Walker City Code of Ordinances. And so typically the zoning board doesn't hear any appeals from the Code of Ordinances unless the process for appealing a standard within that code is specified. And so with this case, we have section 75-23C, which is standards for approval of land divisions. And within that section, there's a process that describes how one would go about appealing the required 4-to-1 depth to width ratio. So depth to width ratio is essentially the parcel cannot exceed a 4-to-1 depth to width ratio. So it can't be 4 times longer or deeper than it is wide. So just a little bit of background on the parcels along Roger. They're part of the Glengarry Addition plat, which was created in the 1920s, like a lot of really old plats in the area. And the ones that we're looking are all generally around 50 feet wide and 156 feet deep. And so what the request is doing, what the request is for is to add 60 feet, 60 by, I think 60 by 50, right? So they're proposing to add 60 by 50 squares to all of the parcels that are shown in blue to provide that buffer that I was just describing. And so when you add an extra 60 feet to the 156 feet, you're exceeding that 4-to-1 depth to width ratio. And so part of the hoops that the applicant needs to jump through to be able to deed this property over to the owners on Roger is filing for this appeal. You'll note that there are some areas shown in green on the plan that was provided. And those are parcels that don't need a variance, but they're shown in there because those are included in the property conveyance. And they kind of want to get this all taken care of all in one shot. And so that's why they're applying for the variance from the 4-to-1 for all of the parcels. And for the record, I should mention that they are 1012, 956, 954, 946, 944, 942, 938, 920, 914, 910, 906, 900, 898, and 896 Roger Street, Northwest, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49534. So, in going through, well, let me just back up a second. Before, so Mr. Goodhart, the applicant who's representing the owner of Weller Auto Parts, had been working with my predecessor, Dan Power, up to this point, up until he contacted me to say, hey, we're ready to get rolling with this. And so initially I thought, is the fact that the parcel to be conveyed, or the property that's going to be conveyed to the properties along Roger, with those being in two separate plats, is that going to be an issue? Because there is a clause in the Land Division Act that says that you can't create any new parcels within any one plat, or you can't create more than 4. Otherwise, you're essentially creating a new plat. And so because this is more of a boundary change, we're not creating any new parcels, we're just conveying a piece from one property to another. This will essentially be a boundary change. So that's why I had that letter from our attorney included in your packet, which specifies that this is the process to appeal the 4-to-1 ratio, and that the fact that they're part of two different plats is not going to prevent the portion of the Weller property from being combined with any of the properties on Roger Street, part of the Glen Gary addition. So I just wanted to point that out for the record. So if we go through the standards here, they're slightly different than our typical variance standards that are found in Chapter 94 in the zoning ordinance. To appeal the 4-to-1 ratio, you have to meet 5 approval standards. So the first one is exceptional or topographic physical conditions on the land, or the dimensions or layout of the parent parcel that make compliance impractical. And so I provided a table in your packet that shows the dimensional requirements in the Schedule of District Regulations for a single family. And so today's standard for lot width is 90 feet. So these lots are all substandard, and that actually contributes to the fact that they're only 50 feet in width, attributes to their depth to width ratio obviously going to be off because they're so narrow. And so because of that, I believe that this standard has been met. The second one, the greater depth to width ratio will be compatible and will not adversely affect the surrounding lands. So the number of lots being requested to exceed the 4-to-1 ratio would contribute to the compatibility of the surrounding lands. So adding the additional acreage to these substandard lots would actually make them a little bit more conforming. They still would be non-conforming by way of road frontage and lot width, but as far as square footage goes, they are moving in the right direction for conformance. They probably won't ever be conforming, but they would be more non-conforming or less non-conforming than they already are. And so whether or not that would adversely affect the surrounding lands that's not something that would be anticipated by the increased depth to width ratio in this circumstance. So because of that, I feel that this standard has been met. The third one is the need for greater depth to width ratio is not self-created. So the owners of the lots on Roger did not create this situation. The Roger Street property owners are open to receiving the additional land from the Wellers. However, the owner of Weller Auto Parts is the one making the request. So because of that, I feel that this standard has been met. The fourth one, the greater depth to width ratio for the particular parcel will not materially impair the intent and purpose of this article. So essentially, the intent and purpose of the article is only to allow depth to width ratios that exceed 4:1 at the zoning board's discretion, with only when no adverse impacts are anticipated, and when the circumstance for allowing it would not set a precedent. And so in this circumstance, I don't think this is something that would set a precedent. And I also don't, if these lots were being proposed, to be 50 feet by 300 feet, then that might be, we'd have to look at that with a different lens. But in this particular case, I don't think that is true. Because of that, I think the standard is met. And then the fifth one, the proposed parcel otherwise complies with all the applicable city ordinances and federal, state, and county laws, rules, and regulations. Both of the parcels on Roger Street and the parcel located on ALPINE, the Weller property, contain lawful conforming uses. And so if we allow the boundary change, that would allow the greater than 4:1 ratio, depth to width ratio. It would actually help in making a buffer between the two incompatible uses. And so the requirement of the boundary change approval is to provide written documentation from the Kent County Treasurer indicating that there are no liens on the property and that each parcel involved does not owe any outstanding property taxes. So that's a piece that has to be taken care of during the application process. And so I would assume that everybody's all up to date on all their taxes. But in terms of being able to meet that standard, I think that the standard can be met. But obviously, we don't have the certificates from the Kent County Treasurer that indicate that there are no liens and that all of the property taxes are up to date. So that will be required as part of the application process through our assessor's office, and so we'll get that information then. If there are any liens or there are taxes that haven't been paid, it's my understanding that that would affect whether or not the property can gain additional acreage. So we'll take a look at that on a case-by-case basis on each of these parcels. And like I said, that'll be done during the application process with the assessor's office. So if the ZBA is inclined to grant this variance from the 4:1 depth to width ratio, I just have a couple conditions here, and that the applicant shall submit an application for property transfer boundary change along with the required surveys consistent with this conceptual plan that was submitted as part of the ZBA application dated September 2, 2020, not 20-250. And new legal descriptions and a statement from the Kent County Treasurer's Office, like I just described, indicating that all parcels involved do not have any outstanding property tax payments. Second condition would be that the And this is one that our attorney recommended in his letter. That the property owners on Roger Street that receive additional acreage from the parcel at 2091 Alpine Avenue shall record a deed from themselves to themselves that contains the new overall legal description for each platted lot. So they'll receive a property conveyance, and then they'll end up having to convey it back to themselves when they combine the two lots, or the two pieces of property.
Tricia, do you have an idea what that cost is on that? To record that deed that the property owners would,
Yeah.
do you have an idea?
I think recording costs are roughly $30 per document. Robert, you might know better than I do. I don't record deeds all that often, but I think it's right around there. I don't think it's anything crazy.
Yeah, they went to a flat fee instead of per page.
Oh, that's good.
And what's that fee, do you know? It's not $2,000 or?
It's between $20 and $30.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't have any, anybody? Any
I
other
have one.
questions?
Um,
Roger's got one.
We have the letters in here that went out to the property owners for their response. And I've noticed, unless they've been updated, 906 Roger and 954 Roger Street. I see 954 has been excluded, but 906 also said that they did not want the deed. Has that letter been updated?
I'm Robert Goodhart, Pathfinder Engineering, representing Skipwell.
Mr. Goodhart, if you want, I can turn on the document camera and you can present from here if you'd like. Otherwise, okay.
So the first address is which one?
906 is the one that is marked to be deeded, but the letter in this packet here that I have says, no, I do not want it property deeded to me.
Correct, yeah, after the submittal, I put that letter in the original submittal, and after the submittal, we provided additional information, that was true. She did not want it deeded to her. The intent right now is to deed it to 910 and 914, which are two properties just to the west, owned by Whole House. He owns two parcels just to the west. And so I've been working with Tricia on that, if that's possible, to create a L-shaped parcel behind the one that didn't want it. So
Okay.
it would go to Whole House owning 910 and 914. He would own two 50 by 60s that go south, and then
And then
another
the one
50 by
behind,
60 that goes
the one behind 906.
Right, yeah, and Tricia mentioned today that would be possible to do that, so.
Have all these property owners on Rogers been told specifically that because of this land grant, their taxes are gonna go up?
I don't know if will the taxes go up?
They're gonna own more land.
So,
And Weller Auto Parts will have less property that they're
think-
going to be paying taxes on.
Go ahead, Tricia. I'm on the board of review, but go ahead, you address it.
well, Randy, if you're on the board of review, you might have a little bit more knowledge than I do. I work closely with the assessing department, but I always give the disclaimer that I'm not the assessor. But this is something that people always worry about whenever they gain more property. If it's property that is unbuildable, the assessment is not going to be as high as if it is buildable. And it's my understanding, I was going to add the condition of approval to make it so this these pieces could not be built upon. But I doubt anybody's gonna build anything on those anyway, so I didn't wanna put that limitation on there. But that is something that we could do, because of the platting. But I don't see any significant, assessments going up so high that they might not want the property. Again, I'm not the assessor.
Well, of the 60 feet they're gaining, according to the 4-to-1 ratio, there's gonna be 16 feet under that regulation that they cannot develop. Because that brings them back to the 4-to-1 as a 200 square feet, or 200 feet deep by 50 feet wide is the 4-to-1. They're gonna be 16 feet over that. So there's 16 feet that, according to that ratio, that they cannot develop. But other than that, the only regulation that we have would be what, I believe it's a 35-foot rear yard setback.
Yeah, that's correct.
So they could build, under the ordinance, they could build on the 60 minus 35, with that 25 feet there, if they wanted to put a shed back there or something. But the property owners aren't gonna know that they can't build in that 16 feet and they have a 35-foot setback.
I guess I'm not understanding where this 16 feet is coming from.
Well, if you add 60 feet to the 156, you end up with 216 feet. The 16 feet is what is over the 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, it's 4.32 versus 4.
Sorry. If the variance is granted, you're allowing the lots to exceed the 4-to-1 ratio. And so,
They do exceed it, but there's a condition for development of property over the if, say you had a farm and you wanted to divide it up into all these long, narrow lots, once you exceed the 4-to-1 ratio, that property can be part of the lot, but is not developable. You cannot develop it.
is this an ordinance section that you're referencing?
Yeah, it's in the 4-to-1 ordinance.
In the Land Division Act, or is it
Yes.
in the,
I think it's in the Land Division Act,
okay.
under the city of Walker.
So Land Division Act is the state statute.
Okay.
But
then
but
maybe
we
it's-
have,
Maybe it's in ours,
okay, I can look at it.
but they're still gonna be subject to, even though the land is over the 4-to-1, they still have to abide by the rear yard setback.
Yes.
Roger, what was the other property you were asking about?
Well, the other one is the one that you have targeted out, that you want the variance, but it's not going to be deeded at this time, and that's the 954.
954.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did not want it, but we want the variance so that
Just in
if
case they change
somebody
their
else,
mind.
either she changes her mind, or if someone else moves there in the future, they can still do it at that time without having to come back.
Right.
So really, that's part of, even though she said no, that's still gonna be a part of this variance, correct?
Right, yeah. Yeah, Tricia has 954 on the application, so.
Okay, I see what you were mentioning. It says, "The Board of Zoning Appeals may impose reasonable conditions or a greater depth-to-width ratio approved by the board, including but not limited to a condition that the applicant preserve in an undeveloped state the portion of the parcel exceeding the depth-to-width ratio of 4-to-1." So it would be the last 16 feet. But you're right, we've got the rear yard setback of 35 feet in there, so it wouldn't even be necessary, but good, pointing that out. Thank you.
We know a lot of landowners in the city that don't know what setbacks are,
That's true, especially with sheds.
especially with sheds.
What shed?
Okay,
Randy, did you want to weigh in on that assessment
Yeah, I
question?
guess, if there's anyone here that is concerned about that, I mean, they can always, appeal their tax assessment if they feel it's outrageous. And we would probably, considering the whole situation, you know, make adjustments. I can't speak for all the board members, but there is good argument to not increase your property taxes for a whole lot of value on this additional gift from a good neighbor. And part of the planning commission and all that history that's there, I mean, this was part of the approval process. I don't think we're gonna overburden, I don't think the city wants to overburden those residents with additional tax burden, if they feel that they're.
we were the ones that caused it.
We created it, we demanded it, and I'm pretty sure the Board of Review would understand that wholeheartedly.
That buffer
and-
came from us originally. remember?
Correct, so
Okay.
I just wanted to share that with you and say, you know, we are a little bit different than the ZBA, we're more kind-hearted and a lot more, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, and they can come in and talk to us, and I'm sure the board would understand the situation.
I guess my question was the fact that once these are deeded, the property descriptions are changed, all of that information is going to go to our assessor's office.
Those girls are really smart and they know all this too, so they'll be on top of it. Yeah, they're good kids.
Okay, you talk to them, Randy.
I will.
Can I make?
If you want
I
to come
need a-
in, I'll talk to you. No problem.
Before we go any further, we can still keep talking about it, but I need a motion to open the hearing.
I'll make a motion, open the public hearing.
Okay, Randy makes a motion,
I'll support.
supported by Pat. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the hearing's open, now we can discuss more.
Okay.
Do you have anybody out there that wants to add it?
I was gonna ask, anybody in the audience care to speak to this variance? Step to the microphone, please, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Martha Collins. I live at 934 Roger Street, and our property is right behind the Weller property. We have lived on Roger Street for 60 years at the same location. We're, at least we, as my family, is pleased with the Wellers being there. They're good people. They've done everything that they said they would do as far as making it aesthetically pleasing in the back of the properties. But now with the taxes, is it something that my property and I think my neighbors next to me and another one that are in the green are the ones that we aren't involved in that 4.1 ratio? When that's deeded to us, you're saying that we're not going to be taxed on that? Is that going to be a sure thing, or is it just something that is going to be tossed around and changed in, you know, in the process? Or are you certain that it's, because it would be a great thing if we weren't taxed on it. I mean, it's like you say, it's not really our fault that this has occurred, you know?
Right, Mr. Chairman, may I answer the question?
Sure, go ahead.
So I have two answers. One is our staff will take into consideration the whole process and how you receive this property from the Wellers. And they will actually, maybe there's gonna be some statutes where they maybe have to increase your taxes a little bit. I don't know, they're the professionals. So if you feel that this is not correct when you get your new tax assessment, you can come into us, I don't think there's a fee for that, and you can appeal that and then plead before the board to reduce it back or to do it whatever you feel. So you have kind of two buffers there. One, our staff will take into the whole process of how this happened, and they'll do what they can to keep it down. And then if you don't feel that you were correctly, or if you feel you're overassessed, you can come in to the Board of Review in April, I believe it is, and you can appeal that and come to us and say, hey, this is what happened, we feel we're overtaxed, and then us as a board can say, hey, we'll give you the relief, or say, no way, you should pay more. I'm just kidding, but, so you have a couple options there that
Okay.
you're protected. I can't say tonight that it's not gonna go up $4 or $5 or $20 or, but you still have a couple of protections for you there. Does that help?
Well, it's an option, but also, can you explain to me now the process of the deed? How is that going to work?
That I can't do. But Tricia might, or the engineer might.
So, Robert, I don't know if you want to explain the process from the property owner's standpoint, because I'm not exactly sure what you're planning on doing for working all that out with the individual property owners.
Sure. So the one thing that we did do is prepared actual legal descriptions for the properties to be, the pieces of the property to be deeded. And we did that for not only the variance properties, but we did it for the other properties too. Like Tricia said, we wanted to do this kind of all in one swoop. So those have been done. Those have also been sent to the Kent County Equalization Department, and they have approved the method of how we describe those, and those have been sealed by my professional surveyor. So those exist, and that is the piece to be deeded. Okay, now the city requirement is if this happens, they want it to be put into one parcel. So we have to take that and describe that into one parcel combined. And then when that's done, that has to actually be put on a deed. And I don't know if that would be a warranty deed or a quitclaim deed. That'll be something that would have to be worked out. And then the city attorney has said that the owners have to deed it to themselves. And then that would complete the process where it's one description that includes this area to be deeded to them, so that there's only one tax bill after that property line adjustment occurs. So once that's done, then I think our work is done from that standpoint. But the one thing that the requirement is in here from the city is talking about liens and delinquent taxes. So it was Mr. Weller's comment that, we do not want to get into that issue. Tricia said that the property owners can do that part of it. If they want the property, then the property owners can provide something from the Kent County Treasurer that shows that there's no liens or delinquent taxes. And then that piece of that document, that certificate or paper, needs to go to the city with the deed, right? Is that the process?
We will need that certificate as part of the application process for the boundary change. So, I would encourage you to maybe set up a time to talk with Kelly Smith, our assessor, to see what the path of least resistance is for getting all of this accomplished at once, rather than doing individual applications and all of that with this whole process. And tomorrow I'm going to brief her on all of our discussions here. so that she's aware, so this is not gonna, be a surprise when it comes in.
Okay, so the one thing if someone if Skip is trying to deed a parcel to someone and they have, some back taxes, is the city gonna say, no, you can't do that right now?
I think that is what the purpose is of, but I don't know for sure. So, the process for handling the land divisions and boundary change applications when they come in, they come to me and I sign off on the zoning to make sure that parcels meet the dimensional requirements and that there's no, creation of nonconformities and that kind of stuff. And then, the assessing department kind of takes it from there. So that's kind of their form that they started including with all land division applications. So I'm not 100% sure what happens if they do owe taxes. That would be something that you want to talk to Kelly about.
Okay, and we did meet with Kelly and Dan Power, on this, I don't know, maybe 10 months or so ago, or.
Okay.
And to go through the process. And,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but, I think she kind of knows it's coming down the pipeline, so.
Okay. So with your typical land division application, you got the application, the certificate from the Kent County Treasurer's Office, new legal, and a survey. That's usually the only things you need for an application. This one's a little bit different, so you're probably going to have one big survey showing all the pieces that are going to be conveyed to the parcels on Roger. And then you'll have.
I think my surveyor said they should be separate though, so.
Yeah, I mean, they will eventually end up needing to be separate because you'll have the property combinations, the individual property combinations.
Right,
But yeah, I would maybe have another conversation with Kelly to make sure you're not missing anything.
okay. All right.
And same goes to you. Was it Jan? Martha, sorry. So if you have questions about the deeds and the process, you can talk to Kelly because she'll be able to tell you what the process is going to be for the applicant who's kind of facilitating this whole deal. But she'll be able to tell you what your responsibility will be as an individual property owner along Roger.
Okay, and she's in the assessor's office?
She's in the assessor's office. Yep, her name is Kelly Smith.
Smith.
She's the assessor.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I got a question. It says taxes on the properties or unpaid taxes or whatever, or mortgages, liens. So if the property, if somebody purchased a property or homeowner, a young couple and had some financing on it, and has a lien on that property, that means they can't do that because they have a regular mortgage on something? I guess I don't quite understand that part of it. I mean,
So that's a requirement for
I can see if
the,
they had a tax lien on the property. I understand that part of it, but I'm wondering, I don't think there's a lending institution that I know of that would frown on adding more property to the mortgage.
that's just referencing tax liens.
You know, yeah.
Okay, that makes.
Just tax liens, that's what I'm.
Yeah, tax liens, not any other type of
Not a
liens.
mortgage,
Not a
not a
regular
second
mortgage,
mortgage.
okay.
Right.
Okay, that's
Yes.
all I wanted to straighten.
Okay.
I didn't see any of that in the attorney's letter. I agree with Bob.
Yeah.
I just reread the attorney's letter.
Oh, yeah, no, I see that.
He probably doesn't even know that is a requirement of our
I can see the tax
assessing.
That I can understand, but the, the lien on the property, I mean, that can be from a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
Nope, Tax lien, good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good. No, what do we got?
Anyone else?
Close it.
Weller?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Skip Weller, and it's been actually 4 years and 2 more days that we've been doing this. And Martha's been the watchdog of the neighborhood. She's been working with my brother. She's a very kind woman. What I think maybe to her question on the taxes, perhaps if it goes up $18 a year or $12 or whatever, some number, the value of your land has gone up to way offset that, Martha. To me, I don't know. I just know red ink and black ink. And I think we started off here at the board. I want to thank you 4 years ago for sharing our vision with us on this. And I don't know if you've been by there, but I think we've done, like Martha says, everything.
That's good.
Everything we've,
You cleaned it up.
and beyond.
Yeah.
But ma'am, is it Tricia? Yes. I haven't met you or talked to you. But on this last thing on this, perhaps there should be, maybe with you and Bob, you could make a punch list, and we could mail to all the residents and say, okay, you got to check this box, and once you do all this, then it's, including the tax. I don't want to be the tax collector or be the heavy. We don't have time to.
It's just
do that.
just a sheet of paper from the Kent County Treasurer that says, yep, you're good, or nope, you're not good.
Yeah, but I would love the neighbors to do that.
And that's totally
If
up
they're-
to you guys.
Well,
You can
if
do
they're
that.
getting the land,
Yeah.
I'd rather pay Bob. I can't hardly afford to buy him dinner, let alone pay him to do this. So I think they would do that if they could call them.
That sounds reasonable.
Yes, if you could help Martha, put a phone number they could call, but I'd just as soon not be in that arena. But otherwise, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions from Mr. Weller or anybody, got anything? Then I'll entertain somebody to make a motion to close the hearing.
we close the public hearing.
Motion by Roger. Seconded by Brian, close the hearing. All in favor of closing the hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No more questions or whatever, I think we went one over it, about everything we
I
can.
think it's a formality.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's very generous on Weller's part to do that, for these people, so.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, if I may.
Sure.
I move to grant the request for the variance, section 75-23C, to allow the above referenced parcels on Rogers Street, excuse me, but indeed a 60-foot portion of the parcel at 2091 Alpine Avenue, so on and so forth, per this application, 4:1 depth to the width ratio based on the findings noted in the zoning administrative staff report dated 10/8/2020, subject to two of the following conditions. The applicant shall submit an application for property transfer, boundary change along with required surveys consistent with a plan submitted on 9/2, I think that's 2020, with Pathfinder Engineering, and new legal descriptions, and a statement from the Kent County Treasurer's Office indicating that all parcels involved do not have any outstanding property tax payments / liens. 2, the property owners on Rogers Streets that receive additional acreage from the parcel at 2091 Alpine Avenue shall record a deed from themselves to themselves that contain the new overall legal description for each platted lot.
Okay, we have a motion with those conditions. Do I hear support?
Support.
Supported by Rogers. Any comments or questions on the motion before I call for a vote? Go ahead, okay, Bob.
Just, if I may interrupt, please, there's just a procedural thing on the date of the plan.
Yep,
It was a revised date of 9/9 rather than 9/2. And I think if you If you scroll down on that one, you can make sure it's the 9/9 revised date. is all.
On the big plant, on our big plant?
Yeah.
Okay?
You're right. I have the plans, on our decision and order page.
9/9.
I've got 9/9 on here.
Okay.
But then, yeah, you're right. I'll change the 9/2 to 9/9 in the condition.
All right, so noted with that change in the motion, correct?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
it's fine.
Any other things before we call for the vote? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion with those conditions, signify by saying aye.
All right,
Pose same sign, it is approved, with those conditions.
thank you, Martha. Come and see me if you need me. Come and see me at the Board of Review if you need me. All right.
60 years
Mr. Weller, we just need you to sign your life away here.
Good seeing you, Mark. If you need anything, come see us. All right.
Okay, it's dinner time, let's go.
Great, because I want to make sure we cross the Ts and dot our Is, you know. It's all new to us. All right. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I appreciate that letter that you requested and to try detailing everything, what we had to do.
All right.
Okay, say hi to Skip.
Can you make it to your car, all right?
Oh, sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll give you
it was granted